So is alcohol bad for the brain? So brain foods are foods that, again, they make your cognition better. So that makes you feel sharper. It helps your memory. And it also is very protective to your brain against a lot of the things that we're experiencing today. A lot of mood issues like depression and anxiety. So let's get right into it. What are brain foods? Brain foods are foods like this, some of my favorites. And if you put these on your plate all the time, your brain is going to really show a big, big, big difference. It's fatty fish. That's salmon, tuna, sardines, anchovies, herring, swordfish. Fatty fish are great. Eggs, another really good thing. Great source of healthy fats. Again, great for your brain. Leafy greens. Leafy greens are full of nutrition, great for your brain. Avocados, things like healthy oils like olive oil. And guess what? Dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is also really good for your brain. So in order to be what we call a brain food, you have to be a food that's going to reduce inflammation, because aging of the brain has so much to do with how much fire is in your body. Another thing, blood sugar. Blood sugar is everything. So when things spike your blood sugar, things go wrong. And when it comes to matters of the brain, what happens is when your blood sugar goes up, your vessels of your brain, the worst thing that can happen is that your blood vessels really go through that period of high blood sugar, because then what happens is you can get vascular dementia. And vascular dementia, we can see that in people that are not even diabetic, just from having a diet that's high in sugar. And brain foods, guess what? They're not high in sugar. And another thing, your gut. And you're going to hear me talk about your gut in a lot of things, but in matters of the brain, the gut really steps in and matters in a big way. Here's why. Your serotonin is manufactured in your brain, and this is a mood enhancer. When you have the right levels of serotonin in your brain, things like anxiety, things like depression, they don't happen in the same way. So having brain health is really important. Immunity. Most of your immunity, it actually happens in the gut. So when your immunity is not there, it doesn't protect your brain. So any food that's a mood food, as I call them, or a brain food, it has to do those things. So again, inflammation, key factor. Gut health, key factor. Blood sugar, key factor. And lastly, it has to be something that mainlines nutrition to the cells. Understand the machine that we're talking about. Your brain, which is, by the way, about 70% fat, which is why the foods that I've listed, that's why they're so important. They have to have that concentration of fat to make everything synapse and move. But the machine, which is your brain, drives everything. So you don't want your brain to start failing you. And if it's so easy to just throw some of these foods on a plate, why not? And eating them most of the time, and that's what I always say, it's what you do most of the time that really drives nutrition. That's what really makes a big difference. It's not the one-offs. It's not that I went out and did this. You can recover from just about anything. It's what you do most of the time that's going to make a difference with your brain health or anything really. And mood is a really big factor. Remember, I talked about your gut and where serotonin is made. And this is a great mood enhancer. And we want to fertilize this. We want to take advantage of this. So knowing that some of these foods are really going to make a difference in manufacturing that serotonin, because I want that. I want that all day, every day. I want to feel good, because the worst thing you can feel is that anxiety or that depression. If you are out there and you're feeling low, like you've got the blues, and you just can't seem to kick it, I want you to really just start thinking about, maybe what I'm eating could actually make a difference and move this in a different direction. I told you all the foods that are great for your brain, and you may be thinking, oh my gosh, then that must mean there's food that's terrible for my brain. There are, and you're not going to like it, but the first one is sugar. Sugar has something in it called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. And this is not good because this really ages. It does just what it says. It ages your body, and it's terrible for all the vessels in your body, particularly your brain. Think about your brain getting wrinkles, because that's what happens when you start eating a lot, or if you have a pattern of eating a lot of sugar. You don't want to age your brain, so got to kick out the sugar. The second thing that I really don't like for brain health is a lot of these flours that people use. So that's the things, and like the white bread, and we have bagels, and we have muffins, and all these things that are made with these white flours. So I would suggest more alternative flours. So have things that are made with maybe a coconut flour, things like that, that are going to be more alternative. Arrowroot flour, there's all kinds, cassava flour. There's a lot of alternative flours that are out there, even almond, that are better choices than the white flour, which does a lot to really move you in the wrong direction when it comes to brain health. And the third thing I would not want you to have for brain health is a low-fat diet. A low-fat diet. So we were steered in the wrong direction when it came to that. And there was actually a retraction article that came out. It was on the cover of a magazine that said, yes, go ahead and eat your butter. And what they mean by that is these healthy fats, again, since your brain is full of fat, has 70% fat, we need to feed our brain the right fats, the healthy fats. So those are the three things I would not have. I would absolutely not have sugar. I would not have refined flours. And thirdly, I would not have low-fat foods. Oh, take my glasses off. They don't like me with my glasses, Drew.
I'm going to put mine on, Kelly. This will show them.
Perfect. Hey everyone, Dr. Kellyann back with you again. And we're talking about brain foods. And there's no way I could not bring in the next doctor to talk about brain foods, because he is so interesting. And it was a new word to me. You know, with Doctors Night Out, I've done interviews with, hundreds of doctors, and throughout my career, I've never heard anyone who was a nutritional psychologist or is into nutritional psychiatry. And they're so linked, and it's often so missing, that I'm really thrilled to be introducing you to my new friend, Dr. Drew Ramsey. Dr. Ramsey, I'm so glad you're here.
It's really nice to be here with you, Kellyann, and hi to everybody listening. I'm really excited to talk about food and mental health with you. That's all I think about.
Yeah, that's all he thinks about, and he's got the books to back that up. I mean, his books, Eat Complete, 21 Nutrients That Fuel Brain Power, Boost Weight Loss, and Transform Your Health, and just lots of others. 50 Shades of Kale, which I love. The Happiness Diet. It just goes on and on. He's, one of those people, those experts that just
don't forget the latest greatest.
Oh, okay.
The Eat to Beat Depression and Anxiety, which is I hope what really helps people right now, because as we've been talking about, Kellyann, everybody's really struggling. Food should be a huge part of people's plan to process what's happened during the pandemic. How we eat and nourish ourselves is a real central part to processing our emotions.
So Dr. Ramsey, again, we're talking a lot about, trauma and what it does to your body. And you always talk about, your favorite nutritional foods for brain power. But outside of trauma or anything else, if I tell you, you know what, Dr. Ramsey, I feel great. I don't need brain foods, or I'm young. I don't need to start thinking about that yet, or I have no health conditions. Why is this something that everyone should put in front of mind, so to speak, to be healthy? Why do we really need to look at brain health? And is this for everyone? Brain foods, are they for everyone?
They're for everyone with a brain.
Yep.
And if you care about your brain and you really stop to consider that your brain is your most important asset, your modern brain is up against a lot of stuff that really we haven't encountered before. When we think about the amount of stress, the amount of information, the amount of toxins and pollutants, and the amount of choices that people struggle with every day, it's historical. We've not had anything like this before. And so that's where small choices, like how you eat, like how you take care of your rest and your sleep, like how you move your body. These are all really fundamental for all of us to have our brains where we want them, which is feeling optimistic, creative, thoughtful, loving, and other directed. Those are the signs of a healthy brain.
Oh, I love that. And I think what people also have to really understand, again, mood has a lot to do with how your brain is functioning. But you talk a lot about other things, Dr. Ramsey, like even gut health and how that has an effect on the brain. So talk a little bit about mood and the gut and how they kind of intertwine, and one has everything to do with the other.
I really hope to take this really to the next level for people in terms of the evidence connecting our mood to the types of food we eat and the types of bacteria that grow in our gut. It's really kind of strange science fiction sounding science that as physicians, we've been thinking about killing bacteria forever. And now I'm saying you should eat some bacteria. That's going to be really good for you. But that's what the research tells us. And so our hope is really to help people think differently about food.
I oftentimes think that when we talk about aging and people are so concerned with the signs of aging, like they think about wrinkles on their face, or they think about, that midsection becoming a little plump as we age, but actually your brain can age like rapid fire, just like we see externally, and we see those external signs of aging. Explain that your brain can age very fast if it's not taken care of as well. And then, of course, cognition and many other things go down as well.
One way to consider brain health is that our brain is always in the process of losing cells and gaining cells. And so as you think about your choices, and I find this very motivating in my own life, as I think about the foods I'm going to eat, and most importantly, the food I'm going to feed my kids, am I feeding them those foods that's helping to shrink their brain, leading to more inflammation and worse gut health? Or am I feeding all of us foods that, at least according to the latest research, is going to help us have more resilient, more robust brain? So when you eat the foods that I prescribe, you don't need to count, because you're eating Mother Nature's top sources of vitamin B12, the top sources of long-chain omega-3 fats, the top sources of magnesium, which, let's be honest, they didn't really teach us that in medical school.
No.
They didn't teach us that in public school.
No.
And so it makes a lot of sense why we're all confused about how to feed our brains. And I really hope this book and my work helps people understand the importance of nutritional psychiatry, and not with fear, like, oh, you ate the wrong food, like that's it, game over, you're going to lose your brain, but much more with the hopefulness, and I hope the enthusiasm people hear from me, that there's a way to be joyfully connected to your food and to feed your brain and to improve your mental health through food. And I hope people feel the invitation to do that.
So before we get to your top foods, I know that you have your 12 key nutrients. But before we get to that, there's just 2 key points I want to bring up. You brought up something that probably made a lot of people's heart stop. You talked about alcohol. So is alcohol bad for the brain?
Yes, alcohol is bad for the brain. Alcohol is a good example of where modern medicine has really dropped the ball in nutrition, because if you ask anybody about alcohol, they say men should drink 2 glasses of red wine a night, and women should drink 1 glass of red wine a night. And that's healthy alcohol consumption. So alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. Alcohol is a toxin to the brain. I don't want people's heart to stop. I drink alcohol. I've consumed alcohol on and off for most of my adult life. I just don't think it's really that healthy. I think that it tends to give people a lower mood. It disrupts sleep. It's something I think all of us struggle with as a coping mechanism, because it works. It calms you down. I think people like the sugars in alcohol. I think alcohol binds to the GABA receptor in the brain, which is the same receptor that medications like Valium and Xanax and Ativan bind to. And so that letdown you feel half a glass in, that combination of just like a little more relaxed and the clench of anxiety gone, that's a very clear pharmacological effect. Swap in some kombucha occasionally to get out of the habit of daily drinking, to swap out your drinking with really good, healthy mocktails, to still have the ritual. I love all these sober spirits coming out. I think it's really fun, because the ritual of getting together and drinking is wonderful. I mean, that's really good for our mental health. And then to go for lower alcohol options, that you can always, have them pour your drink light, have a smaller glass of wine. So those are some of my thoughts about alcohol.
before we get to your top foods here, I want to ask one more question. I actually want to, before we wrap this, I want to bring this topic into the attention because of everyone, because it's something that I fell in love with in many years ago, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, and that is neuroplasticity. And perhaps I don't hear a lot of people talking about it because I'm not in your field, but I think it's really fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about neuroplasticity, what it is?
Yeah, neuroplasticity is the process of your brain growing and changing and repairing itself. And so as we learn things, anybody who's watching this that hasn't ever heard about me or nutritional psychiatry, there's a little brain cell in your brain that this information now lives between. And that's a process of neuroplasticity. It wasn't there before, and now it is. So how the brain grows and changes, how we were talking about the size of your brain as you grow, how some brains stay bigger is because they have more brain cells.
Let's close this by talking about your absolute favorite brain foods. What nutrients do we need?
You want to think about the food categories that have the most nutrients for your brain health. So we hear about these all the time, B12, omega-3 fats, magnesium, zinc, but we don't know what foods those come in. And so the food categories to find those in are things like leafy greens, things like seafood, really the only place you get the long-chain omega-3 fats in a concentrated form. We think about nuts, beans, and seeds. One, because dark chocolate's one of the amazing foods for your brain, not just as a marketing gimmick, but really quite truly, if you think about this idea of nutrient density, and that just means getting more nutrients per calorie. And those aren't my only favorite brain foods, but those are at least some of how the science informs what foods I talk about in the book and which foods I recommend people eat.
Well, I love that. So they're all actually delicious foods.
I hope so. I mean, I don't want to be one of those doctors that prescribes things that taste bad. I have no interest in being a doctor that motivates people through fear. I mean, I appreciate that works. I just think when folks are talking about this toxin or that toxin, like they're missing the point. Certainly there are toxins to be concerned about, but the main toxin that people are struggling with is they're eating a lot of processed foods and they're not eating these whole foods that Mother Nature has always made for us. That are simple, that are delicious, that are affordable. I think that it creates there's this huge myth in some ways that eating well can't be done on any budget. And I certainly appreciate I have an incredible privilege when it comes to my access to food, but I do believe in almost every situation, there are options that people can make to improve how they feed their brain.
What are a couple of your favorite hacks for brain health? What are your top hacks?
My favorite foods to recommend to people that surprise them and end up working really well for them. At the top of the chart is going to be anchovies. Really, when people learn to eat anchovies, it's a game changer. Fermented food like Russian pickles and Russian cabbage ferments that someone might really love. That was probably number 2 in terms of really putting lots and lots of delicious what I call good bugs. So fermented foods help populate our microbiome. And then I'm a big fan of people replacing their salty, crunchy, not so healthy snacks with whole, raw, unroasted nuts. Those for my family generally are cashews, walnuts, and almonds. That's really our go-to snack, that and a fresh piece of fruit. So those are 3 big moves that I find often help people.
Love that.
I really hope people hear my what I hope is an empowering message.
It certainly is.
You're going to mess up your brain health if you don't eat organic this or that, but more like, hey, there's an opportunity for you at the end of your fork.
There is a big opportunity. I'm so glad that you're sharing it with all of us because I have to tell you, I love this topic. I love the way you speak about it. So please tell everyone, where can they get more of you?
Everyone can check me out. I'm Drew Ramsey, MD. DrewRamseyMD.com is my website. I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook, where I'm also Drew Ramsey, MD, and I try and publish helpful information about your mental health and your mental fitness, including delicious foods that I hope you will incorporate into your diet as you think about your brain health. But mostly, I just hope everybody hears my encouragement, especially this year in 2021, to take care of your mental health, to sit with these really difficult and powerful feelings we're having, not to push them away or distract yourself with whatever you're distracting yourself with, but to sit with it. It's been challenging and difficult to transition back to whatever's next. There is no transition back. It's the transition to what's next. And just, at least for me personally, and for the clients and patients I'm working with, it's just filled with a lot of mixed emotions. And so as much as you can be gentle and kind to yourself during that process, I think it's going to go better for you. And as much as I hope some of these foods help you as you navigate the challenges ahead, and I wish everybody the best in that.
I could not be more pleased to talk about nutritional psychiatry, because it was a lot of good lessons for me. And again, talking to so many doctors, this is, I find, a very unique and powerful message. So I look forward to eating some fatty fish with you in New York. I'm going to hold you to that.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I look forward to it. And thank you so much. And everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Most importantly, next time you sit down at a meal, and I hope you see a rainbow of colors. I hope maybe you'll see some seafood, but I hope you'll see some leafy greens. And mostly, I hope you'll look down at a plate of food that you love, that you know is feeding your brain. So everybody have a great one. And thank you so much.
Lots of love. This is a segment I like to call You Ask and I Answer. I'm tired all the time and I don't want to just completely redo my whole diet. So what can I do? When you start eating these foods, remember, your immune system is going to start to heighten and your gut health is going to start to improve. And you're going to start missing what I call, we have these like levers in our body. And when you start pulling them with the right nutrients, everything seems to work better. So by adding these foods will make a really big difference. So I can confidently say, Adam, it'll make a big difference. What is the best ingredient if you want to make a brain smoothie? I would say start with some collagen protein. And I like collagen protein actually because it has something in it called glycine. And glycine is really good for a lot of things, particularly for your immunity. And then throw some brain foods in there, like some vegetables. Like I always keep frozen in the refrigerator. I either keep like spinach or kale or some kind of leafy green that you love. Throw it in there. Throw some leafy greens and some blueberries, and add in maybe some coconut milk. Blend that up. It's delicious, and that, my friends, is a great brain food. And if you want to make it a little richer, by the way, a little pro tip. Add some avocado because it makes the smoothie really rich and thick and frothy. Okay, so it's time now. Do I dig it or do I ditch it? I definitely dig brain foods. Why? Because they hit everything that I love in nutrition, everything. They help reduce that fire, that inflammation in the body. They help heal the gut. They help provide a lot of nutrients for the body, and they help stabilize blood sugar, and you just can't go wrong when you do that. So if you want help with memory, cognition, and you really want to protect yourself towards any kind of mood disorders, like maybe feeling a little blue or feeling anxiety, or you want to protect yourself against things like Alzheimer's, then brain foods are definitely the way to go. Big thumbs up. By the way, this is just food for thought, no pun intended.